All right, thanks for that, Stan. Welcome to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. That was Stan, my rooster. He's crazy, and I just thought I'd show him to you. All right, so here's the news. The VA has made some updates, and I wanted to share it with you. They just pushed this information out June 11th, 2024, and I am here to share it with you. All right, so hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. Every thumbs up and every minute watched truly does help the channel and helps the reach, getting the word out to more of us. If you've hung on to the end of any of my videos, which look, I get it. I know it's hard, but at the end, I say if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong. And I truly mean that. And how can we help each other? Well, the two asks are really, look, hit the thumbs up and let the video run. That tells YouTube to push it out to more of us. And when I say us, I mean the veteran sphere. That's veterans and spouses, surviving spouses, dependents, right? All the people in our circle. So let's jump into this. The headline is VA updates home loan benefits, helping veterans remain competitive in the housing market. Now, at first glance, this seems really weird and not right. And I haven't even read this thing yet, but I know what it's about because I have pushed out videos on this in the past. So I'm going to front load this with, there was a lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors. For those that have ever bought a house, understand that typically 99.9999% of the time, the seller of the home incurs all the realtor costs, right? So as when you get ready to sell a house, the listing agent puts in two commissions, their commission and the buyer's commission. So those are absorbed in the sale of the home, and that cost is incurred by the seller. Well, that lawsuit came into play saying that's unfair to sellers, essentially. I'm going to kind of very much just shrink this up. Unfair to sellers, and kind of increases the prices of homes artificially to cover that, and that it shouldn't be something that's negotiated by the listing agent. That should be a conversation that's had between the buyer's agent and the buyer. So with that, there's changes. Those changes are basically, look, a listing agent can now not, at least here soon, they're going to implement this, a seller's agent cannot negotiate and put into the contract or the multiple listing service, MLS, the amount of commission that would be paid to a buyer's agent, because they're no longer part of that. Now, in addition, the buyer's agent, so if you're, Joe Schmo looking for a realtor, you find a buyer's agent to help you go look at a bunch of houses, well, that agent's now going to have you sign some sort of a contract stating how much they would get paid if they find you a house. Now, how they get paid, my guess is, number one, from you, the buyer. Number two, this is my guess. My number two guess here is that you could still negotiate all or part of your buyer's agent's fee into the purchase of the home. So if it's a soft market, sure, you could do that. If it's a hot market, it might be kind of hard to do that. If you have other people coming in, you need to be competitive. But if it's a medium or soft market, you might be able to negotiate that into the sales price of the home. So anyway, let's jump into this. In March, the National Association of Realtors reached a settlement in a class action lawsuit that requires NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, to change its brokerage fee rules. This could result in changes to the real estate market. Before the settlement takes effect, VA has announced an update to help ensure that veterans using the VA Guaranteed Home Loan Benefit remain competitive buyers. Why? I'm going to throw this in there. Because currently, or prior to this little rule change, a VA home loan buyer was not allowed to pay any buyer agent fees. So you couldn't do both if you got stuck in that, paying for a portion of them. So essentially what's going to happen here is the VA has to change their rules and allow a buyer to pay a buyer's agent if they deem that necessary to close the deal. So in a weird way, it's giving a little more left and right limit. All right, so the VA guaranteed home loan and let them remain as competitive buyers. Specifically, eligible veterans, active duty service members, and surviving spouses who use their VA home loan benefits can pay for certain real estate buyer broker fees when purchasing a home. This update is intended to ensure VA's program continues to promote access to home ownership for veterans. What is the impact of this settlement? The full impact of the settlement is not yet certain because the real estate market is still adjusting. But there may be an increased expectation that home buyers will pay for their own buyer broker fees, which is what I was suggesting up front. In VA's program, it has been common practice for sellers to pay for the veterans' buyer brokers' fees. And that's the way that it's been just traditionally anyway. Why does this potential change matter for veterans using VA guaranteed home loan benefit? Until today, veterans could not pay buyer broker fees when purchasing a home with a VA home loan. In light of the settlement, veterans could be at a disadvantage in the evolving home buying market. So VA released this update to make sure that veterans remain competitive buyers. What does this mean for you? Simply put, veterans using a VA home loan benefit can still negotiate and may now pay for their real estate professional's commission, i.e. buyer broker fee, subject to certain safeguards. VA encourages veterans to seek out the services of a mortgage lending and real estate professional who have experience with VA home loan program to ensure they are familiar with the specifics of compensation negotiations and the impact of the settlement on home purchase contracts. Should you negotiate these fees? VA encourages veterans to negotiate buyer broker fees with their real estate professional. Veterans can also still ask sellers to cover the buyer broker fees at closing. In addition to other safeguards, all buyer broker fees charged to veterans using the home loan benefit must be reasonable and customary within local markets. I'm going to give you my thoughts here in a second on what I think is going to happen in the real estate market, and it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit with this, so bear with me. It says here, will there be future updates? The full impact of the settlement on the real estate market is yet to be determined. The temporary measures announced today will help ensure that veterans are not negatively impacted by the class action settlement. VA will continue to monitor how the settlement affects the brokerage market as well as new models of realtor commissions that may emerge, and do what it can to help lower costs, boost competition, and increases avenues to home ownership. VA looks forward to pursuing a rulemaking. Rest assured, VA will do everything in its power to make sure veterans are not disadvantaged in the home buying process. All right, so here's my thought. What we're probably going to see in the real estate market, in my opinion, is a shift to buyers going directly to the listing agent and talking with them about purchasing the home. Two things can happen there. One is that agent will become a dual agent and represent both the seller and the buyer. And they would then be able to enjoy commissions on both sides of that transaction, which happens today and yesterday as well. But moving forward, that gives the buyer a little more wiggle room with the total amount of fees. That listing agent, to get rid of that inventory and make the seller happy, may take a substantially reduced commission on the buyer side. So let's just say, for example, they're getting a 2.5% or a 3% commission on the listing side. Maybe to take you on as a buyer, they might drop down to a 1%. Maybe that 1% could get absorbed into the sales price of the home. Therefore, you as the buyer have no buyer commission to pay. So, again, the listing agent representing as a dual agent both the seller and the listing and the buyer, right? Representing both would then allow a smaller commission on the buyer's side that smaller commission on the buyer side is more likely to be absorbed into the sales price of the home by the seller, right? Leaving you, the buyer, with nothing out of pocket with regard to brokerage fees, commissions. So that's kind of what I think I'm going to see in the real estate market, in my opinion, as we move forward until they figure out another way to do it. The other thing that we're probably going to see is for those that still want to go directly to a buyer's agent to help them. That's going to be the strong will survive. It's going to be a harder market to break into. Typically, your listing agents are agents who have been around longer and have a substantial kind of book of business to sustain them. Your new people into the market are typically reliant upon buyers. And if you don't have a lot of buyers coming in, that makes it difficult. So if they're going to the listing agents directly, that's going to dry that up. And those that do stick in it as buyer's agents are going to have to, most likely, in a tighter market especially, they're going to have to really lower their buyer commission, is what I think is going to happen. So the VA is probably going to wait until they see how the dust settles, and then they will work on probably really finalizing some rules in this real estate kind of silo with regard to home loans. So with that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.